Hello everybody and welcome back to our channel. Today we'll be reviewing the Aliant collection. It's a great customizable collection for bookcases, wall systems, entrance solutions, and so much more. Let's dive in. So we can create compositions which are totally customizable in width, height, and depth. And this is an example of a composition that is resting against the wall. In this case, we can see that at the left end of the composition, it connects to a kitchen system, but there are two independent furniture solutions which have been coordinated. Here we see another example where we can see its use as a double-sided bookshelf. It's very useful in dividing parts of a big room. It could be between an entrance and the sofa and the sitting area of the room. It could be between the kitchen and the dining area. It could be in a bedroom to separate the home office area from the bed itself. So it has many applications. Most of collections that can be used to create this sort of compositions use a thickness of the panels of 3 centimeters. 3 centimeters is perfectly fine, technically speaking, but the Aliant collection goes over these 30 millimeters panels and use a 35 millimeters panel, both for the partitions and for the shelves. I cannot say that it adds to the quality. 30 millimeters is perfectly fine, but 35 millimeters actually creates a different look. And there are those clients who appreciate the thinner appearance of the 30 millimeters. We can say it's a standard in the high-end segment of the market, while 35 looks stronger, and so some clients might prefer it. The doors are all 20 millimeters, so it's a good thickness, the door itself. The back panels are 14 millimeters, which is actually a very thick panel for an element which does not have a structural function. Of course, on the Aliant collection, we do have standard measures. For example, we have the 32 centimeters depth, which is this one. We have the 41.6, nearly 42, so 10 centimeters deeper. And we have also standard heights and standard widths of the different elements. For example, we can go from one shelf, which is 40 and something centimeters, up to 298, which is 8 different levels, and of course we have standard widths for the doors and especially for the glass doors. But this is the main aspect. It's all completely custom made by the millimeter, and so you don't actually pay for custom measures. It's always made custom, and so in the configuration process, you choose, well, you might have 298 or 261 as standard measures. You simply say, okay, my ceiling is 270. I know that it takes 2 centimeters margin to install it, and so 270 minus 2, I will have a 268 custom bookshelf made for me, and this is where the Aliant collection actually shines. It is completely customizable by the millimeter. When you design your Aliant bookcase, your Aliant solution, whether it's on your own or with the help of an interior designer, you start by adding columns. You decide the width of every column. For example, here we see a column which is hanged onto the wall. You see that it doesn't rest on the ground. So first column here. Then we have another column here. Then we have a huge column. Then I will explain why it is indeed a single column, which takes up these 3 doors from here to here, okay? And then we have this final column here. And when looking at it, you might say, oh, but I see a partition here as well, and also a partition here. And for example, I see partitions here. Why are you saying that this is a single column? Because if you look in detail, you will see, for example, let's take this one as a detailed example. You see that here we have a partition that goes from, of course, from the ground up to the top, and we have the same detail here from the ground up to the top. We have the lower shelf and the upper shelf, and we see that at some point, if you look at these 2 shelves, you see this goes from the left to the right, from the left to the right, and imagine that this smaller partition and this shelf were not present. So basically we have a single column where the middle shelf is removed. Imagine that here you add the shelf, you remove it, and then you add these T element, which is made, it's not a single element, but it's just to understand how it's built. You have a middle partition with its side shelf, and this allows the creation on a standard bookshelf. You would have, okay, this is 90 centimeters wide, shelf, 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 and it's all linear, and it works very well when you want that effect. Here, you simply take away some shelves, and then you start improving it by creating movement, and so at the end you have an horizontal niche, then horizontal and horizontal with a vertical niche here, and then you again have the vertical niche here, and this creates a nice movement. And here it was done in a similar fashion, so you see that it creates this element. They create movement, an asymmetric effect, which is positive. Of course, it depends on your taste, and be it with yourself on your own with the 3D configurator or with an interior designer, you can actually not only customize dimensions, but also customize the very essence of the composition. So we have full customization of measures, full customization of the essence of the composition, and full customization of materials. So in the Aliant collections, we have real wood. It is oak wood, available in 8 different finishes. We have matte lacquer. Here we see it on this pink partition and the doors, and we have 25 different colors. But we also have very good laminates. For example, this is Rovere Bruno. It's a laminate. It's not real wood. Rovere means oak, and you know, it is indeed a laminate. I can perceive it is laminate instead of wood when I look at the tiny detail of the edge. Now with the spotlight, placing light on top of it, I can perceive it to be a bit more shiny than it should be if it were real wood. So I can perceive it, but when I look at it at a normal distance, even from 50 centimeters away, 1 meter away, I don't perceive it, because both in terms of looks of the surface and both in terms of touch, it is very realistic. And of course, having a cheap laminate would reveal its nature, and so it would hinder the overall effect. But a very good laminate, you know, it actually makes a difference in terms of cost. And so you can have a very nice custom bookshelf, and of course the overall budget will be different if you choose a high-end laminate or a real wood. And in the laminate collection, you find wood finishes, but you also find metallic finishes like concrete effect or certain heavy, peculiar textures that you don't find on wood. And so laminate, it could be seen as a way to save some money if you want wood as an overall look, or it's actually the only way to go if you want very specific finishes that you don't find them available, for example, in woods or in lacquers. One note about back panels. For example, you see this composition and you perceive the color of the back panels to be identical to the color of the wall, and you could think that this bookshelf has been produced without the back panels, and this is actually an option. It is its essence when we talk about a double-sided bookshelf. It's an option, it's something to choose on a wall solution. And here, for example, we have these matte lacquer Tortora dove gray back panels, which appear to be identical to the wall, but for example, we could have had the back panels in a contrasting color, or with the same finish that we have chosen for the shelves and the partitions. So this is something else to choose. Normally, I suggest to use, actually, back panels are good. For example, you have less dust that goes around behind the furniture system. Of course, panels are compulsory when you have doors which close a column. So here you necessarily have the panel. When you have an open niche, it's an option. I do suggest to consider them, but it might be a good idea, for example, to have them in a nice contrasting color, which goes well with the main color, and it creates interesting effects. So we've come to the end of today's product review of the Aliant collection. Please remember that we will be publishing the next episode about the Aliant collection in a few days, and it will be about the incredible potential of the 3D configurator of this collection, and will give you good suggestions to create your own custom solution. See you next time. Bye bye, ciao.